We'll just give it one moment for people to come in from the waiting room. Good afternoon. This is the voting hearing of the Boston Cannabis Board. Today is Wednesday, June 16th, 2021. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Cannabis Board, and I'm happy to be joined today by my fellow commissioners, Commissioner John Smith, Commissioner Lisa Holmes, Commissioner Darlene Lombos, and Commissioner Alejandra Sanguillen. And I'd also like to introduce the Cannabis Board's project manager, Jasmine Nguyen.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Well, today's hearing is open to the public and the public is encouraged to attend. Testimony will not be accepted. As a reminder, we will begin with each item in the order it appears on the agenda. We will begin with comments on each item from the chairwoman and each commissioner. We will then ask for a motion. We will take questions on the motion, and then there will be a vote. The board's options are to grant a license with conditions, to defer, to reject without prejudice, which allows for the applicant to return anytime with an application for the same location, or to reject with prejudice, which means that the applicant cannot reapply at that specific location for 1 year. Item 1, the licensee is NSAJO Holdings, Inc. The license premise is 50 Clapp Street, Dorchester. This is an existing medical cannabis dispensary license. The request is to amend Section 22, Section 7 of the host community agreement. From the company agrees to not propose or apply for recreational sales at this site until the medical marijuana treatment center has been operational for 2 years. The request is to change that to the company agrees not to commence recreational sales at this site until the medical marijuana treatment center has been operational for 1 year. Chairwoman Joyce?
Thanks, Leslie. I'm comfortable with the additional process the applicant went through to get this amendment before us today. I have no questions and no issues.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Same as Commissioner Joyce. I have no questions. I'm comfortable with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmes?
The same. I'm all set. I'm good with it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Sanguillen?
Likewise, comfortable as well.
Thank you. Chairwoman, do you have a motion?
I make a motion to amend the host community agreement as described in the application.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The request is granted. Item 2, the licensee is Beacon Compassion, Inc. The license premise is 1524 VFW Parkway, West Roxbury. The license type is a medical cannabis dispensary license that has not yet opened for operations. The request, an application for a change of beneficial interest holder, change of officers, directors, and transfer of stock. Chairwoman Joyce?
My comments are that we do look very closely at these types of applications, and since there's no change in operations at this location, I have no issues.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. I appreciate the additional information that they sent in, and I have no, do not oppose it.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmes?
Yes, after reading all the additional information, since I was the one who brought up the questions of the change of ownership, I was satisfied with the information they provided, so I'm good.
Thank you. And Commissioner St. Gian?
I agree with my fellow commissioners. Also appreciate the added information and feel comfortable with the change in ownership.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the change in the beneficial interest holders and the other changes as described in their application.
Is there a second? Commissioner Smith, second. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The request is granted. Item 3, the applicant is Rooted In LLC. The proposed license premise is 195 Dudley Street in Roxbury. The application is for a recreational cannabis dispensary license with proposed hours of operation, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., Sunday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is a certified equity applicant. This item, there is a buffer zone conflict between this and an existing cannabis establishment. This item was deferred from the April 21st, 2021 hearing pending completion of the traffic study. Chairwoman Joyce?
Thanks, Leslie. I appreciate the applicant's supplemental traffic study that was submitted, and they've agreed to close for 1 hour during school when school's released. I have no issues. It was strong in just about every single category for me. Community feedback on public support, not as high as the other ones, but it had a very strong application otherwise. And I want to make I want to note for the record, their buffer zone statement resonated with me. There is a buffer zone issue. The closest establishment is a cultivation and processing establishment. So I don't see any issue with approving a retail establishment at this location within that proximity.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. I appreciate the applicant doing the traffic study and also following up with the community. And I know that there is some resistance, and it feels like the resistance is just mostly just to that location. But the traffic study really revealed, which folks we had asked for, that there would not be significant changes. I'm comfortable with it and I approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmes?
I agree with my fellow commissioner and the chairwoman. The traffic study for me was the biggest hurdle that I felt that they had to overcome. And it showed that, you know, it was okay, that it wasn't going to have an adverse effect on the area, the traffic. The fact that they're willing to work with the community and, you know, close during school hours, dismissal, I think is helpful, and it shows that they're willing to be a great community partner. And as my fellow Commissioner Smith said, there's always going to be adverse reaction to cannabis dispensaries opening up in certain communities, but I just hope that they continue to work with the area and try to overcome some of that.
Thank you. Commissioner Sakian?
Thank you. Yes, nothing much to add to my fellow commissioners. I also, knowing the area well, I was almost concerned about the traffic, but I felt like addressed that, so I'm comfortable.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lombos was not present at the presentation on the traffic study, but she was present and participated in the initial hearing. So she will also be voting on this matter. Commissioner Lombos.
Yes, thank you. I agree with my fellow commissioners. I really did have high scores on all categories. I'm glad that the traffic study came in, had a chance to look at it. So I agree. It's a strong application. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have a motion?
Thank you, Leslie. Yes, I make a motion to grant this applicant a license at this location. I'd like to add that condition as a part of the license about closing during school dismissal hour.
So this will be granted with the condition that it closes during school dismissal hour, and we'll confirm that time, and it will also be conditional on obtaining a variance for the buffer zone conflict.
Can I ask something, Kathleen? Is there more than one school in that area? Because I think we should also make that decision, because I know the school is right behind them, but I think there might be some other schools in his area. So we might want to just clarify what that hour is, that time frame. So we can encompass all the schools in the area.
That's a great idea.
We will we'll do some research, and before we issue the voting agenda, we will confirm what time that is. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. So this will be granted conditionally, pending a variance for the buffer zone. And the establishment will close for an hour for school dismissal, and we will confirm that. Item 4, the applicant is Pure Oasis LLC. The proposed license premise is 535 Washington Street in Brighton. This is a request for a recreational cannabis dispensary license with proposed hours of operation Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. This is an equity applicant. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thanks, Leslie. This application did not score that high for me. I also think some of their diversity inclusion and their employment plans were vague at best. And I think they had goals that were stated, but I think the programs and measurements that went along with those goals were kind of vague. But I was very persuaded by the type of opposition that came in and the lack of community feedback, community support, I'm sorry. This is a neighborhood that the applicant actually mentioned himself is changing, and it's in the middle of a transition. It's transitional. So we're looking at multifamily homes with multiple cars, and at this location, I see double parking all the time. And there's no denying that this part of Boston has lack of access to public transportation. I don't think it's an appropriate site. I don't think it's a good location. It's not a comment at all on the operators. I think there would be good operators. I just don't think that this is a good location.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Yes, thanks. Sorry. Overall, I like the application. I agree with Commissioner in terms of the site because of the lack of, public transportation. And it's, we talked a lot about, there was a lack of some specifics for me that made it difficult. So, yeah, those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmes?
Nothing to add. The chairwoman mirrored my thoughts exactly.
Thank you. And Commissioner St. Ian?
Yeah, I agree. I do think I'm not completely opposed to the location, but I do think there's just been a lack of trying to work with the community and work with the traffic issues and parking issues. And I didn't feel like those questions were answered. I'm not, I don't feel like that it couldn't move forward without further work on both of those items. I do think that there are just areas of the city that are going to be harder to place locations, but I don't know that there's any place that I would say is absolutely impossible to place location. So I'm not, I'm comfortable deferral or rejecting without prejudice. And if they want to do further work, I do hear my fellow commissioners though on that. It'll be very difficult, and I wonder if it's worth it for the operators to try to continue at that space or look for another one. I know I do want to commend them as having a history of a great operation there, where they have it on Blue Hill, and so I think it might not be worth it for them to pursue. But I wouldn't take it out of their realm of possibilities. But as it stands now, not comfortable with placing it there.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have a motion?
Yes, and I just want to piggyback on what Commissioner Sankian just mentioned. I think this is what we run into a lot when we have an equity applicant, because this application was just filed in September. So I don't think it allows as much community process as we've seen in some of these other applications that have been working with the community for years. Not that we want anyone to have to work with the community for years, but I think I just want to make that comment for the record. For me, I don't think there's anything they can do as far as a traffic study to make it a better location, but I would be willing to make a motion to reject it without prejudice so that they could come back. But I would want to make it a rejection without prejudice so that it triggers the need for a community meeting as opposed to a deferral.
A motion to reject without prejudice. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the applicant is rejected without prejudice, which means they can come back with a new application, but they have to go through the entire process, including the statutory community meeting. Item 5, the applicant is Racist on the Hill, LLC. The proposed license premise is 123 Terrace Street in Mission Hill. This is an application for a recreational cannabis dispensary license with proposed hours of operation, Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is a non-equity applicant. Chairwoman Joyce,
I have no comments except for that it was an excellent application.
Commissioner Smith,
I support this application.
Commissioner Holmes,
I support it, and the fact I really takes it over the top for me is that they're just going to keep this local art studio in there, which is so, to me, so very important in the community to have these things, and it's been there forever. So I mean, again, I think they were great, and just the fact that they're going to keep them there below market rent is going to be so helpful for the artists in the area.
thank you. And Commissioner St. Ian.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow commissioners. I also think it points to just the importance of having people that are rooted in the community and understand the different elements and the importance of Diablo Glass to the Mission Hill community cannot be overstated. And so just as we look at applications, just how much I appreciate when there's someone who really knows the community and is from the community making that application.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have a motion?
I do. I make a motion to grant this applicant a license.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And there are none opposed. And the license is granted. Item 6, the applicant is I&I Rose Garden LLC. The proposed licensed premise is 22 Birch Street in Roslindale. This is an application for a co-located manufacturing and retail cannabis dispensary license with proposed hours of operation, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. for retail, Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for manufacturing. This is an equity applicant. Chairwoman Joyce?
Thanks, Leslie. I like the concept. I like the location. I think the application was lacking in details around their diversity inclusion plan and their employment plan. I think there needs to be some more thought into those two criteria. There was really no details about how they would actually achieve the goals that they stated. So I'd like to see some, it was very bare bones, but I'd like to see some more details about how they'd accomplish what they stated they wanted to accomplish in their employment and the diversity inclusion plan.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, I think that holds true for me too. I didn't see much detail in terms of their employment plan and salaries and their diversity and inclusion and really how they would build on that. So I would just ask for more detailed information around those things. The concept I thought was fine, but it's lacking detail.
Commissioner Holmes?
Nothing to add. I love the concept, but again, I agree with my my chairperson and my fellow commissioner that they need to supplement us with that information because it was lacking in their application.
Commissioner St. Ian?
Yeah, I agree. I do have to say I really love the concept a lot. It's really unique. I love the location. I think it's a great space, and I love, again, locally owned, someone who is from and knows the area, and would just also request just further details on employment and diversity, but overall just really positive.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have a motion?
Yes, Leslie, and I just want to make the distinction. I don't believe that the details that we're looking for in the diversity inclusion plan or in the employment plan go to the crux of the business model or the location. So I do believe that we could grant this conditionally pending their supplemental information on the employment plan and the diversity inclusion plan. This isn't anything like a traffic study or anything that requires additional community process. This is something that they could work with even our equity fund to get some of those details if they needed assistance, but I think it's a very easy, supplemental ask of them.
So the motion is to grant conditionally pending a variance for the buffer zone conflict and also pending submission of further details regarding the diversity and inclusion and employment plan. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. So granted conditionally. Item 7, The applicant is Roster Roots LLC. The proposed license premise is 21 Broad Street in downtown. The license type is recreational cannabis dispensary license with proposed hours of operation Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is a non-equity applicant, and there is a buffer zone conflict with an existing cannabis establishment. Chairwoman Joyce?
Just a few things. I think it's a good application. I think they have a good business plan. I do believe that that this location can support an additional retail establishment. It's downtown prime real estate location. So I do feel like they have met the requirements of piercing the buffer zone.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
I would also say for this one, the same as the last one, I think that their plan, the diversity, inclusion, and employment plan, lacked specificity, and I would want to see them provide that specificity. It's very general in terms of its percentages. It doesn't actually mention starting salaries, anything like that. So that would be the thing I would want to see more of.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmes?
I agree with Commissioner Smith. That was the only thing, and I kept looking for the starting salary too. So I am in agreement with that.
Thank you. Commissioner St. Pierre?
Agree with my fellow commissioners. Think the location can support another establishment, but would agree on further details about employment.
Thank you. Commissioner Joyce, do you have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to grant this applicant a license conditional upon the buffer zone and the supplemental materials around the diversity inclusion plan and the employment plan. Is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
So this is a motion to grant conditional on the buffer zone relief and the supplemental information regarding diversity and inclusion and employment. Is there a second? All in favor? And there are none opposed. Item 8. The applicant is Exhale New England Dispensary. The proposed license premise is 888 Morton Street in Mattapan. The license type is a recreational cannabis dispensary license with proposed hours of operation Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is an equity applicant. Chairwoman Joyce?
Thanks, Leslie. I want to note for the record, the applicant did supplement his presentation and his materials from the hearing last week, and I'm satisfied with the supplemental materials. And I'd also like to say it stood out to me that they are offering a co-op program for people at their, I don't think we've seen much of that so far. Overall, I think it's a very strong application.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
I agree with my fellow commissioner, and I think that I'm thankful for the additional information that they sent in. It makes it strong. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmes?
Agree. The additional information, and when they saw that co-op, that stood out to me too. I thought that was a great idea to get young people learning the business from the ground up. So I thought that was really fascinating. That area is changing, it's up and coming. It's a very busy area. So I think this is probably going to be a good fit for that area. And seeing that the owners, again, are local, they grew up there, they still live there. So I do feel that they're going to be really good and responsible business partners and neighbors to the community.
Thank you. Commissioner St. Pierre?
Yeah, this was a super strong application for me across the board. I thought the supplemental material was very helpful. And again, just reiterating just the importance of local ownership and control, particularly as neighborhoods change so rapidly.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have a motion?
I make a motion to grant this applicant a license.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. Old and new business before the board. The board previously deferred the following applicant to allow for adequate review of supplemental materials pertaining to the traffic study, and the board subsequently requested a full traffic study, which was submitted. The applicant is R2 Resilient Remedies LLC. The proposed license premise is 31 Cambridge Street in Charlestown. The license type sought is a recreational cannabis dispensary license with proposed hours of operation Monday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is a non-equity applicant, and there is a buffer zone conflict with an existing cannabis dispense establishment. Before we begin, I do want to note for the record that the board received numerous correspondence regarding concerns over potential violations of the building code and the fire code and potential violations of CCC regulations pertaining to the building itself. For the record, that is not within this board's purview when evaluating safety, security, and the other items that the board reviews. They're not looking at the physical building in terms of the building code or the fire code, but instead of what the operational plan. Those items, should this license be granted, would be vetted by inspectional services, the fire department, and the Cannabis Control Commission. And for the record, any applicant who has been granted a license, before that license is issued and the applicant and the licensee is allowed to operate, they have to submit all of those documentations to the board before we would issue a license. And we work very closely with inspectional services, fire, and the CCC when moving towards the issuance of a physical license. With that, Chairwoman Joyce or any of the commissioners, are there any questions about the board's purview in that regard? Seeing none, Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. I think it was a strong application. I'm satisfied with the traffic study. And their testimony was that they're going to be more of a mom and pop establishment compared to the one that we approved in April. So I have no issues.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you for the traffic study. And yeah, I also have no issues.
Thank you, Commissioner Holmes.
The traffic study, cleared up what the issues that I was thinking of. I do still think it's very ambitious to believe that people are not going to drive and you're going to only have foot traffic. But I mean, other than that, I don't have a problem there. Everything else in their application was fine.
Commissioner St. Pierre.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow commissioners. Nothing to add.
And Commissioner Lambos. Commissioner Lambos, we cannot hear you. And for the record, Commissioner Lambos echoes the prior comments. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have a motion?
I make a motion to grant this application a license.
And this will be granted conditionally pending the zoning relief for the buffer zone. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. This is granted conditionally pending receipt of the required zoning relief for the buffer zone. Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Jasmine Nguyen, our project manager. And thank you to everyone who joined us. We will see you in July.